Video games are not without their sect of controversy. This is something that's happened since the Atari 2600 days with Custer's Revenge and multiple other games like Beat 'em and Eat 'em that were not child-friendly. And that will lead us down a road that eventually goes into first-person shooters and much more. But a game I want to talk about today is controversial for a few different reasons. Before we get into a video, I have a sponsor for today's video, and that is the XScreen Kickstarter will be launching on July 7th, and something that I was actually excited long before I partnered with them to promote in this video. The XScreen is an attachment for the Xbox Series S that allows you to have a high-quality 1080p 60Hz screen and speakers with you anywhere, anytime, and any place. It's the perfect complement to the small size of the Series S and even will fold down to make the console a laptop for easy transfer to a bag or to luggage. No extra cables required and allows you to still access the storage expansion slot and the power port. Yeah, you guys should go and take a look at the Kickstarter page down below, give them a visit. They're going to be going until the 6th of August, which means you have a good opportunity and a good chance to get in, see what you like the Super Kickstarter Special tier. And remember, all of the package sets will include a Kickstarter green attachment latch to attach to the console. Thanks to XScreen and Upspec Gaming for sponsoring the video.
We are all going to jail. All right.
Hell yeah.
Before we get into Top Heavy Studios and the Guy game, pictured here, we have to talk about Jeff Spangler. Now, this man was impressive. He genuinely was. He had skipped college to learn computer programming. He served as a lead designer for a development team of publisher Razorsoft. And then in 1991, he decided to start his own company, which was Iguana Entertainment. Iguana would later move to Austin, Texas, from Santa Clara, California. The studio was amazing. They had made so many different games: Arrow the Acrobat, NBA Jam on like Sega CD and Genesis and SNES, stuff like that, PlayStation. They made tons of different things, including one of the most popular games on the Nintendo 64, which was Turok Dinosaur Hunter, and most of that franchise, all the way up to Evolution, but we don't talk about Evolution. Jeff, again, was talented. Man worked on so many different projects with the company. Eventually, kind of got ostracized. Yeah, they were bought by Acclaim in 1995. Jeff was promoted to an executive position where he was overlooking Acclaim Studios. On July 8th, 1998, he was fired by Acclaim, who would then turn the studio into Acclaim Studios Austin, which was overseen by a former employee. In October of that year, Jeff had filed a lawsuit against Acclaim, saying there's a breach of contract, fraud, and that Greg Fischbach, who was the Acclaim co-founder, said that he had been urged by Fischbach to purchase about $25,000 worth of shares and keep them just until he was fired, which meant he lost his stock options. Eventually, he would go to found a brand new company. That new company would become Retro Studios. If you know anything about Retro Studios, you'll know that they started working with Nintendo hard and heavy, even from the start. Jeff would end up poaching people from Acclaim and Valve, Ritual Entertainment, so many different people brought in to what would become Retro Studios. At this time, Retro would work on 4 different prototypes without even having a single Nintendo GameCube dev kit at all. One of them was a game called Car Combat, which would be similar to what we see with games like Twisted Metal and Carmageddon, a role-playing game named Raven Blade, a football game called NFL Retro Football, and a game that would end up being the most important for Retro Studios, and that was Action Adventure. Their game was just titled Action Adventure, and they eventually pitched it to Shigeru Miyamoto. Shigeru was really big into the idea of the game, but also the idea of a 3D Metroid game. The two ideas kind of combined and made what would end up becoming Metroid Prime, bringing us the entire Metroid Prime franchise. Jeff wouldn't be a big part of that for long. Eventually, Nintendo basically paid him $1 million to get $1 million worth of stock, and for him to resign, after it was found out that he had a website on Retro servers, a publicly hosted website, but on Retro servers, that had pictures of scantily clad women that were coming all around, or were around him, and also the fact that he was frequently absent from the studio many times. This is a man who was acclaimed for Amiga ports of Afterburner and Space Harrier. He produced a lot of games for Acclaim, including Turok Dinosaur Hunter. All of this would lead to Jeff's third, and as far as I can tell, final successful studio, successful with asterisks, Top Heavy Studios. And this is where the controversy really kicks off. Now, before we get into the studio itself, we have to discuss the concept of guy game.
Steve, this girl's background is in kindergarten studies. She's gonna be very good at identifying colors, shapes, and barnyard animal noises. If any of the questions today deal with that kind of subject matter, she's gonna be a dominant force on the beach today.
Now, the guy game was, well, best way to describe it in my mind would be saying that it was comparable to the Girls Gone Wild VHS tape series. Now, Girls Gone Wild, if you don't know what Girls Gone Wild is, you might be a little too young to know the topic of this video, but hey, that's why I'm here. Girls Gone Wild would go to many different locations, like Panama, stuff like that, you know, big spring break areas, and find women who are of age 18 and older, pay them money to show their tits, breasts, gahungas, big mamma-lammas, you know, those kind of things. It was successful for years. Business-wise, if you ever watched, Comedy Central or any of those channels after midnight, you usually see one of the infomercials. They were successful until they weren't. Nowadays, the internet's kind of ruined Girls Gone Wild, as far as I can tell. Now, the guy game kind of was a video game version of that. There would be a trivia game, essentially kind of wrapped around it, where the women, if they answered incorrectly, would have to flash the crowd with their bare breasts. Now, if they answered correct, obviously, they didn't have to. And the game decided to do this in a similar way. There were 3 different kinds of modes, but the mode I'm going to talk about the most is essentially you have to guess whether they answered or not correctly, or in certain portions of the game, which answer that was wrong they gave. And you would have a flash-o-meter show up that would tell you if you're soft and squishy, sort of chubby, and super stiff. And those would end up showing you more and more. As the ranks would go up, you would have different various levels of censorship, including the logo, blurring, or no censorship at all. The game is very bland and boring. It's a whole bunch of trivia questions that probably weren't even relevant in 2004 when the game released, but still. The game was considered to be pretty much garbage. It got a rank 47 on Metacritic. It faltered in reviews. It was much like BMX XXX or other kind of raunchy games in that time. However, it would become more controversial very shortly.
This is a very pretty girl who likes to have fun and seems to have a good head on her shoulders.
There's something about her I don't trust. Any girl that cute who doesn't have a boyfriend must have something wrong with her. I mean, that's the kind of girl that chews men up, spits them out, won't accept their collect calls. The next thing you know, there's a restraining order against you and your wages are garnished.
During the spring break they went to on the South Padre Island, there was a woman who was involved with the shoot. Her name in the game was Diane. However, obviously for legal reasons, I'm blurring her face, or not showing her face, depending on what I'm doing. Diane, who had said she was legally able to drink, had a photo ID, turns out lied to the developers making the casting of her in the game technically illegal, as she was age 17, and there's a lot of laws behind that in multiple different places, therefore making it a whole clusterfuck. Now, she had sued Top Heavy Studios, the Gathering of Developers, who was a publisher, and Microsoft and Sony to get the game taken down, all that. She sued them and won the case. An injunction was later granted to remove the game off store shelves and to stop any production of future copies of the guy game. That's kind of how it goes. As far as I can tell, they decided to release a DVD version of the game called The Guy Game Game Over, however, with her parts removed, literally and figuratively. It also had extra content and some bonus features, but it was essentially a DVD trivia game, if you remember those. Where are they now? Jeff has something interesting that I've seen from no other person I've ever covered on my channel. Jeff has fucking disappeared. He has no social media presence. As far as we know, he's not really had a successful company ever since then. I have looked him up. I've even sent a message to him on LinkedIn. I'm not going to link his LinkedIn out of privacy concerns, but I cannot get in contact with this man. Every business that he's linked on different places has either come up with nothing or dead links. I cannot find Jeff Spangenberg anywhere. And I've tried. I haven't called phone numbers, but I wanted to do an interview with him. And if he somehow sees this video, I would love to do an interview with him because I have questions. I have genuine questions. As far as I know, everyone else from the Guy Game has kind of vanished from the industry. It was Top Heavy Studios' only game, and it was one of the last games of the gathering of developers. They eventually bought and absorbed into Take-Two, which is where a lot of those companies still exist today, or other companies like Gearbox, you know, their second party, that kind of shit. For my final thoughts on this, gaming has evolved, and it was even evolved past that point, even when the game released. It was 2004. We already had games like Silent Hill 2, Halo, all that, telling better stories, telling things, and improving the genre as a whole to better heights. I think that when you look at the guy game and games like it, they're very juvenile, obviously. I love titties, don't get me wrong, much of the next guy. But I have to ask who the game was for, really. That's the interesting thing for me is, who was the guy game for? Its target market would be children who can't get boobies online, and that's illegal for them to own. You know, frat bros, guys like that who were into going to spring break and seeing titties. Although that's kind of just everybody who enjoys the second part. But that's neither here nor there. It just seems so odd to release a game like that, at the time especially, but I don't know. I can see, you know, there are merit in games like Leisure Suit Larry and Honey Pop. Honey Pop's a popular one. There's a marketable value in those games because they are creating something, they're telling something, and they're doing something. You can not like the fact these games exist, and that's fine. That's, you know, well within your rights. But I feel like they're more viable to, consider art and artistic and all that, instead of games like, again, Custer's Revenge or the Guy Game. I don't know. That's where I kind of run out of anything to really say. It's baffling to me as somebody who loves video games. Why not just look at porn? Porn was around at that time. The internet was around at that time. Why not look at it? But with that, I wrap up this part of the story, and I lead you guys to my Patreon outro. Have a good day. And welcome to the Patreon outro. I wanted to inform everyone I'm back to editing videos as well as doing streams. Streams are gonna be a little less frequent, but videos are gonna be more frequent than they've been in the last 6 months. Sorry for that, by the way. I just haven't had any topics that I thought would fit a video, really. But I realized I need to get back to it because I enjoy making videos. Sometimes. The editing part's the worst part. Recording? Great. Researching? Great. Editing? Not so much. Not so much. But, with that, I want to announce our patrons and our channel members. By the way, channel members and people who are going to subscribe on Twitch, if you decide to do that, we're going to have emotes coming soon. Not right now, but coming soon. Anyways, with our $10 tier, we have Amarette, Annie, and some Jackass. And then in our $1 tier, we have Charlie, Joey Jojo, Josh Boyles, and Kim W. Over on our channel members, we have Wawidu-sama. And like I said, even just $1 a month, you get videos a little early. This one didn't go early because I had a sponsorship. But the next video I'm making will be there for like a week before I even publish it live on YouTube. But yeah, with that, guys, I hope I made a good video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, hit the like button. If you didn't, there's the other button too. You can do that. Also, subscribe, hit the little bell icon, all that, you know, all that jazz. You know what to do. You've heard it before. I don't have to say it, but I'm saying it. Anyways, take it easy, have a good night, and I will see you in the next video or next stream.